What's up, everybody? This is Fred Richani of TSC News. We have right here via Zoom a very special guest. She is the founder and the president of all women's MMA promotion Invicta FC, coming close to 10 years in existence. They're also involved in a major production, a Netflix original film from Halle Berry called Bruised that's dropping November 24th on Netflix and select theaters. We're pleased to be joined by Shannon Knapp. Shannon, thank you so much for your time. How's everything going?
It's going great. And thank you for having me on the show.
I know you're very busy these days, so thank you so much for the time. Let's talk about the topic on hand here. Bruised. This is a major film on Netflix, Academy Award winning Halle Berry. She is a massive MMA fan. For anybody that doesn't know, she's always up in the MMA events. And the one thing that's really cool about this movie is not just the fact that it involves MMA, but it involves Invicta FC. So I got to ask you, how did you link up with Halle Berry and get involved with this film?
Halle's people reached out to me and were interested in attending one of the events. Well, for some reason, our schedule wouldn't line up. And kind of at the last minute, I ended up having an event and she was able to attend that one. So it's kind of really where the ball got started rolling. She had the opportunity to go behind the scenes. You know, I'm a big fan of, if you're going to tell a story, you've got to tell the story. You can't jump in somewhere in the middle, somewhere at the end. It's got to be at the beginning. And that's kind of what I sold her on is if you want to see the true heart and the essence of the sport for women, you've got to come to Invicta. There's no other promotion that is going to give you that, really that behind the scenes and that grassroots feel for where it all begins. And she listened to me and she came to the show, you know, and then once they were there, we kind of talked and I helped a lot with the props, what a show would look like as they built it out, on the set. And that's kind of just how everything came along. It was like, well, I have all the assets. You should just call it Invicta. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how it just kind of unfolded. And that's where the story went.
And I know Halle's been an MMA enthusiast for years now. And obviously, I'm sure she had to engage in some training. Did she work with any Invicta fighters as far as on the choreography or any of the scenes?
There are a couple of the athletes that are in the film. So, she certainly did work with some of the Invicta athletes. But I think, she's stationed and based out of, not stationed, but based out of New York. So I know that she worked with a lot of athletes and, from that area.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, I got to ask you, are you in the film? Are you allowed to say that?
Oh, yeah. No, I can say it. No, I'm not. By the time I came into the picture, they had already cast the show. And there actually is a male that plays the owner of Invicta in the movie. So it's kind of interesting and fun.
That's kind of an interesting dynamic. And you've been ahead of the curve for a while when it comes to women's combat sports, not just women's MMA. And it's kind of crazy, right? Here we are almost 10 years after Invicta was formed. Women's MMA continues to be on the rise. Some of the most exciting fights, greatest prospects, great marketers as well. And then on the flip side, you have pro wrestling, where women's pro wrestling has just kind of grown significantly. When you were starting Invicta, obviously you saw that there was a need for a space for an all women's promotion. But are you partially surprised by the success of Invicta and really the kind of growth of women's MMA up to this point?
I really am. The whole reason I started Invicta was because nobody seemed to want to jump in there, roll up their sleeves and work on it. And it was going to take work. It needed someone, to come in and organize and build divisions. And the biggest missing piece was just a platform where the women could compete, stay busy and kind of hone their skill set. So, yeah, to look back from where we started and where we are today, it's certainly been a process, but it's been a good process. I always say when you do good work, good things happen. And that's kind of been the story of Invicta. We're a community that all came together and we lifted it up. And here we are today.
And for anybody that's not familiar with your background, how did you get involved in combat sports?
It was through my broadcast side. That's really kind of where I started. I've worked for the UFC. I worked for Strikeforce, I worked for Affliction, IFL. I kind of worked for everybody. I learned a lot of lessons along the way, but yeah, that's where it started. I had a huge passion for the sport and, I was a big advocate for the athlete and really the sport. So, whether it's naive or not, I really thought that if I came into the space, I could make a difference and help elevate it. And so that's kind of been my quest ever since I stepped into this space.
Did you have to overcome any challenges being in a pretty male-dominated sport, especially at that time when you first started?
Oh, I still do. It's still an amazing situation. I mean, had some interesting things happen along the way. One of the examples, and it's one of the things that, I talked with Halle about is I've had where a male, predominantly male promotion go into a venue and the venue pay them to come to, to hold an event and do a show, but ask me to pay them to do the show there. So, it's always interesting. I think, there's still a little bit of that out there, but to me, that's the good fight. So that's kind of what really pushes me forward and makes me more determined.
Right.
Friends.
For sure. And I think too, with all the big stars that have come through Invicta, all the stars that you guys have developed, all the stars that you still have today and everything, it builds the credibility over time, right? Like when you see somebody have success in another promotion, or you see somebody get in love on Fight Pass or Access TV or whichever platform is covering MMA, you really see like, okay, like, Invicta's for real and we should pay attention to this.
There's certainly not any easy fights over here. I've been told that many, many times. But what is going to happen if you're at Invicta is if you stay or if you leave and move on somewhere else, is you're going to be an athlete that is prepared. You're going to be tested. We don't throw anyone in the deep end. Our goal is to help you accomplish your dream. And that's to get those wins and do the best that you can do. So yeah, it's not easy, but I definitely feel confident in saying that when an athlete has a career here or moves on, it's a solid athlete.
Definitely. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the fan base too is really grown as far as demanding, more women's fights. And in general, like kind of more combat sports, like when there isn't like a women's fight featured on a particular card in another promotion, or in the case of pro wrestling, if there's only like, say one women's wrestling match, like people tend to speak up these days.
Oh, absolutely. It is definitely our time to really, spotlight, put that line out, show that women are strong, resilient, capable. And I think that the fans are excited. I think the women are very excited when they, whatever the genre is, when they're competing, there seems to be a passion, they're really in it to win it. And I think anytime you see something like that, it's exciting to watch.
Do you think that long-term Bruised can help the growth of women's MMA?
I think one of the things that everybody will take away from this movie, or at least I hope people take away from it, it's a positive that no matter how things look or how bad things are, is winning is getting up and getting in the fight, and that's honest. It's just getting in there and doing the best that you can. And you may not win, you may not get the belt, but you're moving forward, and you're making changes in your life. And I think those are valuable things. I hope that if the athletes watch this or, that they take away from it. And I do think that it will shine a positive light once again to show that, she overcomes a lot of adversities. And I think that it will show once again that those women are very strong, very capable, and very resilient.
For sure. Now, we always like to ask all our guests some kind of random rapid fire questions just to get to know them better. Are you ready?
I don't know. I'll try.
All right. We'll start you off with an easy one. All time favorite fighter.
Boss Rutan.
He's great.
Yeah.
Fun fact, he actually wished me, this is way before Cameo, it was like through a friend. He actually wished me a happy 21st birthday like years ago. The video is still up. Nice. Very nice guy.
Now that is why he's my favorite, not, besides his skill set, but he's a really decent human being, a nice guy.
All-time favorite actor besides Halle Berry.
Oh my gosh, Sean Connery.
Oh, there you go. Great choice. Original James Bond. There you go.
Yeah.
Favorite late night snack.
Cake.
any kind?
Yeah, no, just something sweet. So yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Just trying to think of something.
Most awkward moment as a promoter. If we're like an after party after like an Invicta show, or the premiere of Bruised, and I'm like, Shannon, what's something wacky that's happened to you as a promoter that maybe you didn't expect that sucked at the time, but maybe it's funny to tell now? What would it be?
I choked a guy.
On purpose?
Yeah, no, a rear naked choke. It was after an event, and I look across the room and I see him push this girl down and then grab a hold of her, and it was Fleece Harry. Oh. And I come in from behind, swoop, put him in a rear naked choke, and yeah, it's funny now, but at the time, it was very interesting. So
it's kind of cool that the promoter who works with the fighters can also kick your ass. Not so much for the offender, but if you're a fighter, it's nice to know that you're in their corner.
Most people know you don't mess with my athletes, and that was whether they were male or female. Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty protective, but yeah, that was that's quite an interesting time.
On the flip side, what's been your most rewarding moment as a promoter?
I know this one because it's every time, when you have these young athletes and they come in and they see that belt and you see the sparkle in their eyes and that they have the drive and the passion, and to see them make any step toward in that direction to fulfill the dream, that's really the rewarding. So, I mean, the good thing is I keep getting rewarded over and over and over because, the more fights we have, you see these kids just doing what they want to do and being successful. That's huge. That's a win for me.
That's fantastic. And we get out of here on a positive note. What's the best piece of advice you could give for success?
Being able to pivot when you need to. Yeah, I think that you have to be agile in that sense. And that when those curveballs come, you're at bob and weave and get out of the way, and just being able to pivot and move around and do, make the changes when they're necessary. I think that's really the key to a lot of things.
Awesome. Well, Shannon, we really do thank you for the time. Of course, fans can check out Bruised on Netflix and select theaters starting November 24th. Besides Bruised, the floor is yours for anything you got going on with Invicta.
One of the things is I would like to always say thank you to our fans. I mean, we couldn't do this without the fans or the media. And, we're just grateful and thankful for all the support. We look forward to, we'll be back 22 in January. We've got some announcements coming up. And yeah, just thanks for that support. I think fans are going to be surprised with what we have in store for this next year. It's very exciting.
Awesome. Definitely looking forward to it. And where can fans find you online?
Well, I have social media, of course, the Instagram, the Twitter, and it's Shan, ShanKnapp. And that's my handle on each. So for cool. Twitter and for Instagram.
Cool. And of course, you can check out Invicta FC online. Shannon, thank you so much for your time.